When a forest, such as the one pictured here, experiences a severe fire, shouldn't we harvest those dead trees? The forest is, after all, basically destroyed, as news outlets covering such fires will tell us every time. We may as well salvage what little value remains. Indeed, that's why the word salvage precedes the word harvest in that kind of timber sale. Ecological science provides a clear answer to whether we ought to salvage burned timber, however. And that answer is a resounding no. Salvage logging is, bar none, the most ecologically destructive management activity that federal and state agencies conduct on our public lands. Severely burned forests like the one pictured here are not only perfectly natural, but they constitute one of the most ecologically unique forest vegetation types on planet Earth. As I explained in the previous video in the series, burned forests are where the magic is. Countless plant and animal species depend on the creation of blackened forest conditions. We know that because the distributions of many species are nearly restricted to these severely burned forest conditions. Simply put, what you're looking at here is the only kind of forest condition within which numerous plant and animal species thrive. A blackened, dead tree environment harbors important food resources not only for fire specialist wood-boring beetles, but for numerous plant and animal species that occur under no other ecological conditions. I can't emphasize this enough. The standing dead blackened trees also harbor important seed sources that are continually released for years following fire. Plant recruitment from both standing dead and fallen dead trees cannot be improved upon by removing those very trees and then planting seedlings by hand in an open, dry, salvage logged area. Cutting followed by tree planting only results in unnatural tree compositions and spacings, which interferes with the process of natural forest succession. Not only does succession allow for a magical change in the kinds of plant and animal species that occupy severely burned forest conditions in the first few years following fire, but succession also allows for the transformation of species compositions with each ensuing successional stage for years to come. Any plant or animal species that occurs exclusively in any one of these post-disturbance successional stages can be considered to be fire dependent if it occurs under no other forest condition. It is fire dependent because it requires environmental conditions that only severe fire can create. As I explained in the fourth video in this series, the process of severe fire disturbance is critically important because across all successional stages, the vast majority of western conifer forest species occupy one condition or another that only severe fire can create. Unfortunately, the public has been duped into thinking that any kind of fire other than mild understory burn is an unnatural fire and bad. You can see this in every good fire, bad fire message pitched by both management agencies and conservation organizations. The message fails to convey the importance of severe fire disturbance to a healthy conifer forest system and the importance of maintaining the aftermath following such disturbance events. It should come as no surprise, then, that this good fire, bad fire public education message is accompanied by the most misguided land management activity there is, salvage logging. Cutting burned trees is sold to the American public as sensible because the forest is otherwise valueless because it was destroyed by fire. The effects of post-fire salvage logging on the very organisms that are most fire dependent are overwhelmingly negative, and they constitute among the strongest and most consistent scientific results ever published on any wildlife management issue ever studied. The main justification for salvage logging is that it will help the local economy in the face of a short-term loss to the timber base. But this justification is given without even considering alternative ways the forest might help communities capitalize on ecotourism, the ecotourism potential that a burned area can provide to support the local economy. Severely burned forests can provide local communities the possible benefit of once-in-a-lifetime ecotourism boom and a once-in-a-lifetime educational opportunity. These are special places, more special than old-growth forests. Why salvage log when the activity clearly violates the legal and moral mandates to maintain the ecological integrity of the systems that sustain us all? Especially when there are plenty of green tree forests we could be harvesting in the WUI to provide timber-based economic benefit to communities. I already explained that there are things you can see in a burned forest that can be seen nowhere else. These are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities for the local community when they're left in an uncut and natural state. So how do we get out of this mess? Well, we have to start with abandoning the idea that understory fires are good and severe fires are bad for most western conifer forests. The good fire, bad fire message is a horrible one for organisms that evolved to depend on severe fire. And for those who argue we need prescribed burning and thinning to get a variety of forest conditions following a severe fire, well, they need to understand that severe fires that burn across thousands of acres always produce mixed severity effects and a diverse forest afterward. Just look at the fire severity map of any western conifer forest fire if you want to see mixed severity effects in full color. Severe fires are good fires. If land managers and conservation organizations were more strongly versed in disturbance ecology, they would understand that a burned forest like the one pictured here is a forest that just experienced recovery from the perspective of plant and animal species that require one stage of succession or another following a severe fire. The blackened forest in this picture is not a scar on the landscape. It is a beauty mark. And it's time for the public to demand ecologically responsible land management before, during, and after severe fire events. Well, what exactly would constitute ecologically responsible forest management? It would be land management that, 1, does not include pre-fire thinning and burning to prevent severe fire. There are exceptions, of course, but those exceptions are restricted to a small minority of low-elevation dry forest types, mostly in the extreme southwest, where forests historically burned at lower severities and where those treatments make some sense. It would be land management that, 2, does not include fighting fires as they burn beyond the WUI, because human safety has little to do with forest fuels or fires that burn beyond the immediate area surrounding structures themselves, as Jack Cohen at the Forest Service Fire Sciences Lab has demonstrated. And finally, it would be land management that, 3, does not include salvage logging following the most important restoration event that a disturbance-dependent forest system can experience. Well, I hope you come to think differently about severe fire after viewing these videos. I certainly have come to appreciate the role of severe fire disturbance after having been lucky enough to conduct 40 years of research in that arena.